Excuse me. What up, guys? So I'm going to jump right into this, and yeah, I ended up in a sell. I'm going to explain why. I didn't see any reasonable areas to get in for longs in here personally. Yeah, so basically what I had looked at and what kind of like solidified my or changed my bias from looking for longs to sells, at least in the short term, to capitalize on a move, was essentially that we had basically broken this structure point. Now, I understand that it's a week break. It is only done with a wick. However, we had built up liquidity kind of sitting across these highs like this. And we had a little news event, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I ended up just kind of playing into this being a pro trend move with this series of highs, lows, highs. This never ended up breaking the low, but we did break the low from here. And then what I ended up looking at on the lower time frame was, okay, so ultimately we've seen a change of character. So what I looked at is, okay, well, what's the first reaction point that we should have in terms of, excuse me, in terms of taking supply driven trades. So what I sort of viewed was that obviously we have a little zone here. I looked at this entire supply range as well, but just looked for, I wasn't looking to play the 5 second as we technically would have had to create a 15-minute chalk to be able to get up there. So in order for me to just kind of stay aligned with my session and me realizing that essentially we've broken down here, all I looked for in this particular case was order flow to just kind of realign and show itself, which it ended up doing basically on the 1 minute chalk, right? So I could have maybe viewed something in here, depending on how aggressive you were looking at things. Personally, I was a little bit reluctant to even look for sells. I've been waiting for buy setups for a couple of days now. So yeah, kind of got the Monday, haven't been in a trade for a few days. So kind of got myself into a position. So like I said, looked for liquidity to clear across these highs. And then basically look for a realignment, right? And got the realignment on this recovery right here. Something like this, so V shape. Something like this. And then it's just a matter of what caused the break. So I know the question is going to be, coming out of like, well, we didn't have any liquidity to take into the POI. So here's one of these, I don't want to say it's a special circumstance, but this is, really, really just understanding what liquidity concepts can do for you. And what I realized and what I sort of played into was that we had already taken, an abnormal amount of liquidity into a very refined area and then delivered some form of V-shaped recovery or an order flow shift, an aggressive order flow shift. So the idea is that now, once we break through here, it's the process of mitigations that's typically going to take place, at least in my experience. So yeah, I just kind of got involved around this flip zone right here. So I actually had this refined down to this guy. And I believe, so like I said, I'm unfortunately taking trades on my phone just because my MT4 is a little bit screwed up. So I had a little bit of a wider stop loss than normal. I believe it was a 3 pip. So I just got involved basically here and not confirmed on the seconds whatsoever. I did take a partial at this potential for a strong low, which I'm definitely happy I did. And I will let the rest of it run. So 50% of the position is off at this level. And I'm hoping to be able to run this down a little bit lower into potentially somewhere in this region down here, and yeah, basically be able to carry it a little bit, possibly a little bit further. But yeah, I would say that if we're looking at the 15, again, just to kind of give you an idea of like what it is that I looked for was, I was looking for longs, to be completely fair, and I would have taken longs if we would have mitigated something reasonable, right? But like there's nothing here. It just looks like we've liquidated the low. So kind of tricky PA, if I'm being completely honest. It's kind of hard to decipher which way we want to go. We have liquidity built on both sides of the market. Higher time frame expectational order flow suggests a new low. However, internal stuff is suggesting that we put in new highs. We have a bunch of liquidity built for it. So very, very tricky. You got to be very reasonable with how you take profits in cases like this, because quite frankly, nobody really knows what's going to happen here. We're kind of dancing within a range right now. Yeah, so that's kind of how I justified getting into this sell position. I think that reasonably you could have looked to get into some form of a long on the demand creation in here, depending on how you view the market. But like I said, I'm not trading right now. I didn't really look for anything in this region. I don't want to say that I have a sell bias by any means, but the bottom line is that a sell presented based on the fact that we had basically taken out this low. So if you did catch longs, I think it's reasonable to have looked for something in this region, provided you saw this as the change of character. Now, again, just the only thing that I'm not super fond of is the fact that we didn't actually mitigate any form of demand here. So I'm a little bit reluctant to get involved. I would much rather see something actually tap into an area that created demand in the past before we can start looking for a realignment to then target these highs. Again, just personal preference. The criteria is here for the longs. In my opinion, it's still here for the shorts, both trading pro trend, depending on how you view things. So like I said, my bias, not necessarily my bias, but the opportunity presented itself off of a refined POI here. Because I viewed this as counter order flow, I just waited for a realignment on the 1 minute to then be able to take the sells. Everybody understand how I got into these? Didn't catch the sell because it didn't mitigate that 15-minute, same way the long opportunity. Yeah. So all I saw, Hugo, like I said, was I just basically saw this as counter order flow. I saw a refined POI that we were reacting to. I had this marked out just to have a look at, see how it ended up reacting when I got that really strong push off of it. So as soon as I saw the strong push, I was like, okay, well, this wants to move down into at least the origin of the move. So that's basically what I did, is I took a good bit of my partials off at the low, and yeah, just gonna let the rest run, and obviously missed out on a potential long here, but it is what it is. This PA lets interpretation come into, yeah, it does, and that's usually what ends up happening in the range. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's tricky, but it's tough to stay patient in these sort of circumstances, is what I find the most difficult. And I mean, ultimately, like as soon as you see some form of liquidation and a reaction to a very specific area with some form of aggressive order flow shift, it's very easy to get involved, to be able to know that we should push further. We had that level of liquidity to take into our extremity. And like I said, I'm just done for the day. So not really looking to take anything in here. Can we look at the 5 second for a possible entry? Yeah. I said, I haven't traded the 5 second in about a week now, and the only reason why is because I have to it's so sketchy, but I have to use my phone to be able to get involved, which is really shitty. But okay. Yeah, what do you want to look at here, Max? Just to see whether or not we could confirm this POI is my guess. I don't see anything like super specific that we could have got into here. Chalk flip. Yeah, this would have been a little bit more difficult, to be honest with you. Come down once we actually break this. Yeah, this would be a little tricky to get into on the 5 second. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that, unfortunately. I'm getting parallels back on my computer too, guys, so I'll be a little bit more active with the 5 second starting tomorrow. It's driving me crazy that for whatever reason, the Mac software just won't operate properly, or the program won't operate properly with the Mac operating system. So yeah, a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. The other one that you could, yeah, go ahead, Hugo.
Oh no, you can go ahead and I'll ask after you're finished.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you go to the 1 minute?
Yep.
Down kind of in that area where you said the possible buy could have happened.
In here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Just because for refinements, because I feel like this happens a lot where, when we look at the M3, like this is probably an M3 refinement.
Yeah.
And then you always kind of have the extreme. Do you always, for example, if you were to mark out your refinements for this like M15, because let's say this is the whole M15, would you mark that and then also always just kind of mark the extreme in case it reacts to there, like even though it's mitigated and all that?
One of like the more important things for me probably in selection here would have been like, okay, well, what's swept liquidity, right? So for me, that would have like kind of ruled out a little bit of this these areas. And I like, again, I look for reactions, right? And I'm not actually trading this. I probably wouldn't be confirming this on the seconds right away, especially because we're reacting to something super specific, higher time frame order flow suggesting new lows. So what I probably would have done in a case like this would have been wait for an M1 chalk and understand where it's coming from, right? So if you looked for that M1 chalk and you saw something along the lines of this, you would have asked yourself, what caused that change of character? And it would have been very simple to see that this interaction zone at the flip would have been the area to possibly get in, right? So you like, again, like it's, you have to understand kind of the nature of like what's happening in the market. We've liquidated these highs, we've pushed down. I understand that like there's a couple different areas that we could have got involved in, but the bottom line is like the one that takes liquidity is usually going to be the one that's going to be the most reliable area. So for me, even though we've kind of got a partially mitigated or even fully mitigated 1 minute block, the idea is that demand kicks into the actual market from this area, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because even though it's mitigated, I feel like it's more important the fact that it's swept and it's the extreme.
Yeah, and like,
right?
let me go to like a 2 minute. Yeah, so it's mitigated partially. Yeah, pretty well fully. You could have maybe refined to this wick.
Yeah.
Again, like with stuff like this where we don't have like you probably would have looked at something in this region as well. Don't like, if you look at just the nature of how this is delivered into here, oftentimes, and again, like with the idea that we're coming from an area after we've taken liquidity and then pushed down this heavily, I'm going to want to see a little bit more of a realignment, at least on the 1 minute too, right? Even though we do have a model to jump into the 5 second, you kind of got to read between the lines a little bit too and say like, okay, well, ultimately, like what's going on here, right? And like how am I supposed to get involved where I actually feel confident doing it? So personally, the only way that I probably would have got involved would have been once we actually broke through here, changed character, and then I could have looked to, let's just see if we have anything that happens on the 5 second, if you wanted to confirm. But ultimately, this is your flip zone, right? So you would probably have to, again, just throw a limit on it. Or a sell stop right above, or sorry, buy stop above here. But yeah, it's tricky, man. The couple tricky plays, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was a quick one.
Yeah, the only other way I could see is like if you use this extreme refinement and you saw, your change of character, I would say that the chalk happens probably somewhere in here. And this is kind of messy PA too, right? Like it's very like, do we just see this 1 minute chalk, or do we start to utilize lower time frame? And here, what caused it? Well, we need a level of liquidity to take, ideally, right? So this is, in all fairness, man, this is super tricky PA this morning.
Yeah, it's tough. I never know if I'm like, because I always go through the unmitigated, which is the M3. But I respect that. And then once it gets down to here, it's like, should I just throw in that extreme, even though it's mitigated, And then I'm like, am I forcing this or not? But no, I just wanted, I kind of knew the answer, but just wanted to give it to the
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so yeah, no worries, man. And I mean, this is a good question because, there's a lot of times where even though my model says, to essentially jump down onto the 5 second, whether we hit here, whether we hit here, a couple different areas. The bottom line with this, guys, is that if you're ever uncertain of what you should be doing, especially when you're trying to catch some sort of a falling knife like this, don't be afraid to let the 1 minute realign for you. You know, like I can't, there's only so many specifics that you can put into, you know, entry models and stuff like that. Some of the stuff needs to, you know, you kind of have to use your head a little wee bit. And I think honestly, like if you're ever doubting and there's a couple different areas within the extremity, just wait for a realignment, right? Show that there's some form of movement that wants to happen, and ultimately, you know, play off of that, right? That's the easiest move to sort of take, right? Once we push through and then come back down to mitigate, I mean, this is a lot easier to get into than dealing with this mess down here, right? Which could leave you in a position where, like in all fairness, you're looking at this right here, like this doesn't show any form of order flow shift, right? It might show it on the seconds, but you can see how messy it plays out. So just be mindful of this, guys. You know, especially with the delivery coming down into this heavily, be very, very cautious as to, you know, how quick you get into things. You do not need to be the first person in there. You can also reconfirm your 1 minute areas, you know, with the 5 second as we move away from price. Obviously, you don't get in you don't get in at a absolutely discounted price, but the bottom line is you'll get the necessary confirmations that you need. So that's about all I can say about this. Today was, in all fairness, and it's Monday, it was tricky PA. And yeah, I wanted to get involved into something. Yeah, I'm just kind of itching here, right? So, and I feel like a lot of you guys are doing the same thing. So don't be scared to wait. That's all I'm saying. Wait for the best quality setup. And if you don't know what that is, just let it happen, right? Let it happen on that higher time frame. In this case, not higher time frame, but you know, our higher entry criteria time frame, which in this case is the 1 minute. Patience, man. It's difficult. You know, we can preach about it all I want. At the end of the day, it's very, very difficult to let these setups kind of formulate. But yeah, that's it for today. Hopefully this is helpful. I will, I've got a couple videos coming out for you guys today. Had just a busy weekend, unfortunately, and couldn't get some stuff out. The new dark layout is available. Feel free to change things around as you so choose. Would definitely prefer if the homework stayed in the white color. It's not going to be mandatory anymore, as in all fairness, I've only had maybe 10 people actually submit homework for one-on-ones. So do what you'd like to do for the amount of people that are actually submitting it and booking in for the one-on-ones. You do not need to necessarily have our chart colors. So I will make a note of that in the actual Discord server. But yeah, the new black color, or the new darker the new darker template is out. So if you guys want to use that and modify it to your needs, by all means. Yeah, Nick, go ahead, man.
Okay.
Hey.
Can you go to the 15 minutes? Let me just get the annotate up here as well.
Hold on, I'm just going to zoom in. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, we know. It's this one, yeah. So I didn't take the trade, but I wanted to take a trade, yeah. So I just demoed it.
Yeah.
But my thought was like, okay, even though we have this chock here, it's not really the order flow hasn't changed, because to me this whole supply up here hasn't really done its job. It failed over here.
I would agree.
So it makes it not okay. I just wanted to check if that's it. And then there's a 5 second entry in there, which then goes on. And I would have taken my profits over here, because this is weak. This is also weak. We're not sure. So just play to the next.
Yeah, and it's just like about being conservative with the targets too, and that's like, we have a model right in the actual flow chart too. Like don't be scared, especially if you're funded. Take your profits off the table. You're dealing with a high amount of capital to begin with. Don't be scared to take profits, even if it's full volume. Don't fucking worry about that. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm like 1000% with you. The only thing that really shifted for me was when we did this. And that's the only reason I was able to cap or justify getting into this on a pro trend move.
Yeah. Wish I'd taken it live because it's like a 40-hour trade.
There's all kinds of those, man. Trust me, they come all the time. Just got to be
Yeah, but it's
patient
all
enough to
learning.
let the setups
So
right.
that's great. It's all learning. Thanks. I just wanted to confirm with the order flow. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I will. I'll be tending to the Discord server a little bit later on this afternoon to see if there's any unanswered questions. I believe there's a couple from last night. So if you're one of those people that did ask a question, expect those to be answered in the next hour or so. Just had a busy morning and again busy weekend, so apologies for that. But yeah, I will catch you guys tomorrow morning for the narrative, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.